Happy Saturday, everybody, and welcome to my show. News summary from Moscow program and also a community chat. After news segment, I will join community and let's have a discussion. It's Saturday after all, so we can approach this live stream with a little bit more casual style than usually. And so yes, it is 13th of December, 3 p.m. Moscow time, middle of the day. And as always, I have prepared quite a number of news on some major developments, and I really hope you will find news segment informative, interesting, useful, and whole show entertaining. Hopefully, it will work out good. And in case you have some question that you want to discuss, or in case you want to discuss certain topics after the news segment, either use the support platforms, let's say super chat feature on Rumble. I'm streaming on both my channels simultaneously on YouTube and Rumble. And because I just mentioned it, let me drop link in the chat from my Rumble channel, by the way. So you can use super chat feature on Rumble. It's called Rant there. And also you can use, of course, PayPal, Boosty. I dropped a link, dear friends, and if it's convenient enough for you, please switch to my Rumble channel. I really want to fast track development of my channel on Rumble. And yes, of course, I will first of all take care of questions from support platforms, and then I will join community chatter, generally speaking. That's been said. Links to all the support platforms are under this video in description box, and it is time to go through some news, and a lot of news, dear friends. So therefore, I will try to be faster. In some cases, maybe I will go through just headlines, maybe. So RIA Novosti is reporting about her work of air defense systems of the Russian Federation past night. 41 drones were intercepted that were launched by Kyiv regime with assistance of NATO. 28 drones from these 41 were intercepted in the Saratov region, 4 each of the Voronezh and Rostov region, 2 each of the Belgorod region and Crimea, 1 above Volgograd region. And unfortunately, in Saratov region, as a result of this NATO and Kyiv regime strike, 2 civilians were killed there. In an apartment building was struck, basically, and a number of flats were destroyed, and unfortunately 2 civilians were killed as a result. Information that you're not gonna hear anything about in the Western media, so-called media, of course. In retaliation, of course, Russian militaries launched retaliatory strikes on the military and logistical infrastructure of the Kyiv regime, NATO Proxy, energy infrastructure, and RIA Novosti also is reporting about this. The Russian, in response to Ukrainian terrorist attacks on civilian targets in Russia, last night the armed forces of the Russian Federation launched a massive strike against Ukrainian military-industrial complex enterprises and their energy facilities that support their operations. Defense Ministry stated this morning Russian troops completed the missions and hit all the designated targets. Defense Ministry reported during their operation were used not just drones and cruise missiles, but also hypersonic Kinzhal missiles. And well, according to reports, dear friends, as a result of Russian retaliatory strikes, for example, Odessa was in dark past night, early hours this morning. You can see on your screen right now some, and I will make it a little bigger so you can see it more clearly. This is some areas of Odessa, and you can clearly see it's in almost complete darkness. There was a massive blackout, and reports are that this situation happened not just in Odessa region, but in a number of other areas also. And on this topic, we have reports that Russian military struck targets in Odessa region, Dnipropetrovsk region, Sumy region, Kharkov region, Poltava region, and many other directions, Nikolaev region. Although, of course, Russian militaries are conducting long-range strikes on a regular basis, and they're not just at nighttime. And for example, yesterday, according to reports, as a result of Russian long-range strike, also in Odessa direction, cargo ship was struck and almost completely burned down with whatever military equipment this cargo ship was carrying on board. The Genk T ship, cargo ship of Turkish company Genk Roro, caught fire in Odessa port. The tank, it's not tanker, it's a cargo ship, was moving under the Panamanian flag, although it was belonging to a company that was registered in Turkey. And reports are that for the strike, Russia deployed Geran drones and also some cruise missiles. Of course, you are familiar with the reports about British terrorists and Ukrainian terrorists targeting tankers that are linked one way or another, allegedly with Russia. They were targeting tankers in the Black Sea, elsewhere too, and I guess it is time for Russia to start retaliating on all the vessels that are heading towards Kiev regime's control the territory. Long overdue, obviously. I wonder how it can be that there is still portal infrastructure, operational portal infrastructure left on the Kiev control territory after 3-4 years of special military operation. But well, it is what it is. And on a regular basis, by the way, Kiev regime was receiving, and I'm afraid continues to receive, all sorts of military assistance from the NATO countries through Black Sea, also through all sorts of vessels, and also Danube River is used for these purposes. And hopefully Russian militaries will have opportunity now, if Kremlin has made a political decision, and this is not a one-off operation. Hopefully, then Russian militaries will have a green light to go ahead and eliminate all the vessels that will even try to supply Kiev regime with anything whatsoever. We will find out soon. But this particular vessel, cargo vessel, Genk Roro, was basically burned down almost completely. I saw some videos, and it was almost nothing left, just the body of the vessel, right? This metal frame. That's about it. Maybe we will learn some more about weapons or whatever this vessel was transporting to Kiev regime, about cargo of the vessel in upcoming days. Possible that we will learn some more information. And Turkey reacted, by the way. Turkey reacted on this strike, and well, I can give you some short fragment of statements from there. So, Turkish Foreign Ministry, after the strike on the ship in Chernomorsk, called for an end of the conflict in Ukraine. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs reminded about the need to reach agreements guaranteed the safety of the navigation in the Black Sea area. And you know what? Last time I checked, Turkey was actively providing all sorts of assistance to the regime, including military assistance. Two out of 3 tankers that were targeted recently in the Black Sea were struck by British and Ukrainian terrorists in territorial waters of Turkey, not in neutral waters, but in territorial waters of Turkey. And I don't remember Ankara being too concerned about it. They made some mild statements about these attacks, but nothing extraordinary. So therefore, okay, this is their game that all sides can play. And yet again, hopefully, Russian militaries will receive a green light. Russian militaries and intelligence services will receive green light from Kremlin to neutralize all the vessels, literally all the vessels that will even try to reach Kiev controlled territory. either through Danube or through Black Sea. Let's eliminate them all, right? That will be right response to the terrorist attacks of the British terrorist regime and their proxy terrorist regime in Kiev. That's it, by the way. And if anybody wonders why am I saying British terrorist regime, why I'm mentioning the UK's mass murderer government, then, well, everyone who pays any attention to developments knows perfectly well that all the terrorist activity of the Kiev regime in the southern sectors, including Black Sea, is orchestrated by British intelligence services and British militaries. And those drones, maritime drones, for example, and aerial drones too, that are deployed against Russia, are provided, you guessed, by which country? Usually it's UK. Usually, in most of cases, it's UK. So that's why I'm saying it's a terrorist regime, by the way, murderous, genocidal regime that should be eliminated also. And time will come for that too, obviously. Everything will have its time and everything. TASS news agency, meanwhile, is reporting that Russian armed forces liberated 8 settlements this week. I can give you some details on that. So Russian military personnel liberated 8 settlements in a week, including the city of Seversk. This was reported by the Russian Ministry of Defense. And there are some more details over the course of a week as a result of decisive actions by units of the North Group of Forces in the Kharkov direction. The village of Liman in the Kharkov region was liberated. Units of the West Group of Forces continued to destroy the Ukrainian armed forces. Groups encircled on the left bank of the Oskol River. The villages of Kurilovka and Kucherovka in the Kharkov region were liberated also. Over the past week, units of the Southern Group of Forces liberated the villages of Seversk. It's a city, actually, man. It's a city of Seversk and Chervone in Donetsk People's Republic. Statement said, furthermore, during the week, units of the Center Force Group of Forces liberated the villages of Rona in the DPR. Meanwhile, Vostok fighters continued to advance deep into enemy defenses and liberated the village of Astapovskaya in the Dnipropetrovsk region. Dnieper Group of Forces also liberated Novodanilovka settlement in Zaporozhye region. Significant success of the Russian armed forces, I will say, in just past several weeks, by the way. Literally in just past 2-3 weeks, we had Pokrovsk being liberated, a major stronghold of the Kiev regime. Relatively big town, by the way. Russian troops liberated Seversk. Russian troops liberated Volchansk. Russian troops liberated Kupiansk, by the way, in last several weeks. That's when this was happening. But nowadays there are some developments that is happening in the Kupiansk area. I will get to that point in a minute. Also, Russian troops practically liberated most of the Dmitrov city, Milnograd, as it called by Kiev regime. Northern part still has to be liberated, but process is underway, and I guess potentially maybe before end of next week, Milnograd will be completely secured. Russian troops are advancing in a Gulyai-Pole area, another major stronghold of the Kiev regime on the southern sectors. This is Zaporozhye sector, and after liberation of Novodanilovka, Russian troops are basically finalizing preparations for a major offensive in Orekhov direction, another stronghold of the Kiev regime in same direction, in Zaporozhye sector, right? Also, Russian troops are finalizing operations in Stepnogorsk area, western flank of Zaporozhye region. So definitely significant progress. And I just mentioned cities, by the way. I just mentioned cities. Right now, numerous villages were also obviously liberated there, as this reporter highlights here. And well, I mentioned Kupiansk, isn't it? I mentioned Kupiansk, and there are some weirder developments are taking place, at least in the media field, by the way, in regards to this town. Last 24 to 48 hours, Kiev regime's propaganda and pro-terrorist so-called media in the West is going wild. while sharing these photos or videos that Zelensky made allegedly in the Kupiansk area yesterday or day before yesterday, which is total nonsense, by the way. One have to be total moron, literally moron, to believe that Zelensky 2 days ago was in outskirts of Kupiansk area that was depicted in that video is the most western part of the city in a forestry, right? In a forestry. Here on the top picture here, you can see this obelisk that used to say Kupiansk. And on the left and right side, by the way, if you take a look at the map, it's a freaking forest there. Most western part of the city. And according to some reports, Russian troops from there, I mean, forward their positions of the Russian troops were located in about 8 to 1000 meters, right? And yet again, if anybody believes that Zelensky went into Kupiansk 2 days ago, that someone definitely needs to, I don't know, train brains a little more, right? Because it's total nonsense. God knows when this video was made and if this video is even real, right? Nowadays, anything can be done with AI. And I don't believe even for a second that Zelensky went to Kupiansk on that most western outskirt of Kupiansk entrance, basically on the city territory. I don't believe even for a second that he went there a few days ago. But some pro-Ukrainian, pro-terrorist propaganda went as far as to claim that Kiev regime's forces almost recaptured Kupiansk, right? Which is insane, isn't it? Which is insane to say, but that's the propaganda narrative that is pushed by these pro-terrorist, all sorts of sources, right? That pretend to be alternative media or whatever, right? In reality, what happened, and I was checking all possible sources, by the way, to learn what the hell is going on around Kupiansk. And well, based from what I read, including on Russian sources that are quite often very critical when they find it necessary of the certain approaches of even Russian leadership or military leadership included. So according to those sources, there was a premature claims made earlier about liberation of a couple of villages on the northern western side of Kupiansk. Russian troops established their presence in those villages, but never actually finalized clearing operation. But because of the presence there, someone made decision to claim that these villages are now liberated. And well, Kiev regime used this opportunity perfectly well to create this so-called media storm now. These villages were never actually fully controlled by Russian forces, but because Russia claimed that they were under Russian control, Kiev regime, all they did is said, you know what, we recapture these settlements now. You see, we recapture this village, we recapture this village, right? And we are on inside the city itself now. When certain groups of Kiev regime's forces were in those villages right on the edge of Kupiansk anyways, and seems like they push inside the city on the northern parts while deploying thousands of troops, including hundreds and hundreds of mercenaries. A huge number of mercenaries were thrown into this battle. Also, Brazilians, for example, Colombians, and God knows who else. Right, so that's what happened. It was basically mistake made by someone who claimed those villages were liberated, and that mistake was used against Russia. And Kiev regime is claiming now that, well, we liberated this, we recaptured this village, and we enter city itself. And some Kiev regime propaganda is going as far as to say that there is only like a few dozen of Russian troops left in the city and are encircled. Well, I don't believe any of it, by the way. I don't believe any of it. And I'm quite sure it will take maybe 24 to 48 hours, couple of days, and Russian troops will decimate whatever troops Kiev regime send there, deploy in this area to create this media noise, right? And that's about it, right? But Kiev regime did manage to divert attention of the public through propaganda means. Kiev regime and their NATO terrorist backers did manage to divert attention with these developments from what is going on in Pokrovsk area, what is going on in Mirnograd area, in Gulyapol area, in Seversk area, in Volchansk area. And they did it, right, successfully, unfortunately. That's why whenever some officials do make claims that this settlement is liberated and this settlement is liberated, they should be very careful, because if information is not 100% correct, then this can be used and will be used against Russia. And that's exactly what the regime did, by the way, right? That's been said. Nothing extraordinary, nothing grandiose is happening in the Kupiansk direction anyways. Give it a day or two, a couple of days basically, and Russian militaries will decimate these terrorist groups that are operating in the northern part of Kupiansk and in surrounding settlements. Already process is underway. And for example, I mentioned, isn't it, that hundreds of foreign mercenaries were deployed in this direction by Kiev regime. Vzglyad newspaper is reporting that Kiev regime sent, among other terrorists, sent also 300 Brazilian terrorists, mercenary terrorists, into Kupiansk direction, and the Ukrainian and as a result of Russian FOB strikes, by the way, significant number of these nobodies, these dirty creatures, were already exterminated, right? And probably their relatives will never see even pieces of this shit, right? These Brazilian mercenaries or whatever their fucking animals they are. Ukrainian Armed Forces command sent about 300 Brazilian mercenaries to attack Kupiansk. They were hit by FOBs, media reports. And during one of these such strikes, at once, 2 platoons of this Brazilian garbage was exterminated, right? Around 40 mercenaries. I hope none of them will survive, man. I really hope none of these fucking animals will survive. And all these foreign mercenaries that are fighting against Russia for money, hopefully all of them will be exterminated. None of them are humans. None of them deserve to be called the humans, right? We have to kill them all, man. That's it. We just have to kill them all, and hopefully Russian security services will gain information about every single one of them. And if somehow some of them will escape, we have to track them down and kill, no matter how long it will take. Months, year, 10 years, we have to kill them all, man, right? So that everyone will know that you go against Russia, you fucking die. That's it, right? We can show mercy towards our brainwashed brothers and sisters from this creation of the Bolsheviks that called Ukraine. We understand they've been brainwashed, right? But denazification programs will do their job when time comes, and the vast majority of them will rejoin Russian world. We will come to their senses for sure. But foreign mercenaries, man, foreign neo-Nazis inside the Ukraine and their foreign mercenaries, there can be no mercy towards them, man. We have to kill them all, literally. And we will, by the way. It's sad that not am I director of the FSB, otherwise, man, otherwise I know what I would do, right? But, hopefully, we will do what is necessary anyways, right? Also, on the topic of these foreign mercenaries, flaw. NATO is struggling, by the way. Kiev regime and NATO, they are struggling to bring more and more these animals that they are recruiting all over the world into fight against Russia. And therefore, according to British propaganda outlet BBC, these international legions, so-called international legions in Ukraine, are about to be disbanded. And they are coming up with all sorts of explanations, but in reality, what is going on, there is a very little flow now. They are struggling to bring thousands and thousands of those animals that was happening in the first year or two. They are struggling now. to bring them into this fight. And reports are, by the way, that at least 10,000 these foreign mercenaries already have been exterminated by Russian forces. And I think this is quite conservative estimate. I think much more animals were killed in the battle, much more animals that were fighting on behalf of Kiev regime from whichever country, Colombia, Brazil, European states, or whichever, right? I'm quite sure at least this number, or real number, is at least in double or triple of 10,000. TASS news agency is also reporting that, Kiev regime's forces are freezing to death, by the way, some of their troops at least. And this happened in one of their sectors, in Liman direction, for example, Kharkov region. So bodies of Ukrainian servicemen who died of hypothermia were found near the Liman village in the Kharkov region. Village itself is under full Russian control now, so Russian troops had the time to make sure that all their trenches and all the strongholds are checked to make sure that there are no pockets of resistance there, right? And during this thorough checking process, they find a number of bodies of Kiev regime troops that were left basically there to die from hypothermia, and that's exactly what happened to them. According to source of TASS news agency on the Kharkov front, while advancing through the forested area west of Liman, several group of forces found the frozen bodies of Ukrainian soldiers who had died from hypothermia at two positions out of 6 positions of the Kiev regime's forces that were checked, right, in that forest, or in that particular forestry area. Probably number places, let's say places where these Kiev regime troops are just freezing to death is actually more than 2 areas out of 6 that was checked. What those people are doing, especially if they've been forcefully mobilized, man, what's going on in their freaking brains? Why they are not contacting Russian troops? Why they are not surrendering? I really don't understand, man. I don't know what Kiev regime did to the brains of those people, man. They are freezing to death. For what? For genocidal geopolitical agenda of the Western ruling class and their proxy terrorist regime of Zelensky. For what these people are dying, man, especially forcefully mobilized ones. I don't know, man. Once this conflict will end, dozens of programs have to be implemented to help these people, man, to help these people to come to their senses again, right? Because they clearly been brainwashed in unimaginable levels, right? Would you die somewhere in the forest, from hypothermia? Would you allow yourself to die for genocidal Western elites somewhere in the forest of Sumy, man? Would you do this? Probably not, isn't it? For sure not, man. And you know what? A lot of news. Next is left, but yet again, let me, before I continue, drop a link to my Rumble channel again in the chat. And if it's not too difficult, dear friend, just click on that link. Should be visible in our YouTube chat, and you will go to my Rumble channel, and there you can continue watching live stream there. So okay, that's been said. Let's continue now with some other news, although before I want to open Rumble here to make sure that there was oh, thanks God I opened it before the super chat disappeared. There is a super chat from D Modoscatter, and thank you very much, D, for Daniela, for your support. And the super chat, of course, I will highlight this super chat after the news segment. Right now also super chat from a Blorp on Rumble. Thank you very much, Blorp, for your supporter. I will copy now. It takes a second, dear friends. I will copy this super chat to react on it after the news segment. And okay, let's continue now. And where I was here. I was here, by the way. Of course, this deception operation, by the way, deception operation launched by Western ruling class to somehow lure Russia into a trap of all sorts of nonsensical negotiations about allegedly about peace, in reality about break that Western elite is desperate for their proxy regime in Kiev and for themselves too. So this deception continues big time, big time. They are not showing any signs of slowing down, by the way, even though hardly anybody in Russia takes them seriously, right? But nevertheless, they still push this narrative. They have no reverse gear, they have no brakes. And they will continue until Moscow will say, you know what, just give us a break, man. Just go kill yourselves, right? Just don't disturb us with nonsense, right? But until that moment, they will continue to push. They will continue to push this deception. And for example, Bild, German, it is German, isn't it? So-called media outlet is reporting that Trump has allegedly sharply increased pressure on Zelensky, and we have to believe in this. That's their intent, isn't it? To fool us all, man, that, well, Washington is trying hard, man, to put pressure on Zelensky so that he will agree on a sustainable peace, right? But Zelensky is so tough, by the way. He's such a big deal that even Washington cannot do nothing about it. And Washington is not just asking but begging Zelensky to agree on ceasefire terms. I mean, how stupid someone have to be to believe in this shit, man? I mean, honestly, how stupid someone have to be to believe that Washington wants to Zelensky to agree on something, and they are struggling with it, and they are forced to put more and more pressure. What kind of game is this, man? And who they are trying to fool? If anybody is that stupid, those stupid elements already been fooled, by the way. They don't need no more additional propaganda. They've been zombified anyways, right? Rest of humanity is not buying this shit, man. So why this is that difficult for the Western ruling class to understand that they have no need to push this nonsense no more, because they are laughing stock, right? We are laughing at them. But what is this, man? Washington wants something from Zelensky, and I mean, Zelensky is such a big deal, by the way. It's such a big deal, right? It's such a powerful politician on a geopolitical scale, on a scale of a whole solar system, whole galaxy, even whole universe. That well, Washington can do nothing about Zelensky, man. It's come on. This is crazy, but I'm sharing this news, dear friends, just to highlight a level of desperation and the stupidity on the part of Western ruling class. That's what they are, man. That's their level. That's their level, really. So Bild is reporting that U.S. President Donald Trump has sharply increased the pressure on Vladimir Zelensky to resolve the conflict in Ukraine. Bild. As sources told the German newspaper, Washington is pushing him to make concessions, including in the context of a corruption scandal that is reducing the influence of the head of the Kyiv regime. What influence has Zelensky ever had, man? I mean, really, especially outside of Kyiv-controlled territory. What influence Zelensky or anybody literally from Kyiv-controlled territory ever had on a geopolitical scale? None. Zero, right? So what Bild is talking about here? Who gonna eat this shit, man? Who gonna take this propaganda and say, oh, you see, man, I mean, Zelensky is tough and Washington is trying. Washington is for peace, you see? They are pressuring Zelensky. They are for peace. No, man, this is all BS, right? This is all freaking BS, man. According to Builder, the upcoming meeting of delegations from the US, EU, and Ukraine will discuss security guarantees and the situation with Russian assets. I'm telling you, man, they come up with this game. They come up with the rules of this game of deception, right? That is directed strictly on Russia, first and foremost. And they are playing this game among themselves, and the rest of the world, like watching, and like I do, and we are watching this nonsense and thinking, what the hell, man? What the hell? Okay, we can laugh, man. We can laugh at you today, yesterday, tomorrow. Okay, we get that. You are that stupid, Western ruling class. We get that, but don't you have any sense of like self-respect or any shame? Just stop, man. Stop playing these nonsensical games. No one cares. Literally, no one cares. If you were capable of fooling some groups of humanity, you already did it with their non-stop propaganda, non-stop anti-Russian propaganda in past years, right? So whoever is not taking your BS seriously, those people are well informed. You're not going to be able to fool them. Is that difficult to understand? What is wrong with these so-called elites in the West, man? I don't know. I don't know. But yes, they are pushing hard. They are pushing hard. They are playing this game that they invented, and they are playing among themselves. Пожалуйста. И еще там, по-моему. Окей. Sorry. So yes, they are continuing these nonsensical games, and you know what? You might say, well, why Moscow is why Moscow is not saying publicly, openly, directly that they are not interested? Well, point is that if Moscow will say it openly, then you can imagine what kind of hysteria gonna be launched in the West, isn't it? That Moscow is shutting down doors for diplomacy and this and that, and you know what? I guess Moscow just want to avoid this unnecessary noise, right? That's why Moscow is not saying that just go kill yourselves. That's why Moscow is not this direct towards Western ruling class, including this American so-called leadership. By the way, if anybody believes Trump is making any decisions there, I have Himalaya mountains, by the way, in my pocket, and I would sell those mountains happily to that person. These are puppets, right? The true decision makers are very different people, and we will never probably learn their names ever. But yes, if Moscow says openly, just go kill yourselves, then those very Western ruling class will go so hysterical, by the way, so hysterical that it's going to be just too freaking noisy, man, right? All of us are already kind of sick and tired of this noise that they make, isn't it? So that's the reason. So Moscow is leaving door open for negotiations, for talks, right? Russian side is still polite and everything. Okay, I get that, but none of them are fooled, by the way. If anybody believes in the West that they're gonna fool Russian leadership, like they did during the Minsk One, Minsk Two, or during the many other so-called agreements, well, they are mistaken. Literally, nobody can be fooled from Russian leadership, and some of the high-ranking officials here in Russia are basically quite direct in this regard. And rumors are, as I already mentioned earlier, yesterday or in previous updates, rumors are that Lavrov, by the way, was very tough and very direct with Rubio during their last conversation, because I mean he's old man, he has no time for this shit, right? And Rubio was there acting tough, trying to act tough, and they're telling Lavrov some nonsensical stuff that he hear from Kat Kellogg or something, right? Or from Zelensky maybe, and Lavrov just did not take it. He hung up the phone. He told her what he was thinking about Rubio and all that BS, and he hung up the phone. So patience is also running out, one might say, on part of Russia. And you see, Russian foreign ministry is not even engaged big time in these so-called talks. It's aides of Russian president, Dmitriev and Ushakov, that are engaged in these talks, right? Russian foreign ministry is already, distanced itself from these nonsensical games. Rightfully so. Rightfully so, but Russian diplomats are very busy people. These are high professionals, right? Top gear, by the way, in the field of diplomacy. And obviously, it's insulting for them personally and professionally to have talks with these freaking morons that represent modern Western world. It's insulting. It's insulting to their intellect, right? And you can understand why. You can understand why. So anyways, Western ruling class continues to push this deception, this so-called peace talks and all the so-called negotiations among themselves, how they're gonna arrange peace, right? And for example, we have this report from TASS News Agency that Trump said that a free economic zone in Donbass would operate. Now they have this idea, this another nonsensical idea that they are discussing among themselves, that Donbass have to be free economical zone, and if Kyiv regime will withdraw some forces from whatever is left under their control, then Russia has to withdraw forces also, and whole area has to become a free economical zone. And I guess in this paperwork that they are preparing, they would probably propose NATO to be in control or something like that. Right? It's such a BS, by the way. We cannot even talk seriously about this, right? If they're going to be a free economic zone anywhere on Russian territory, well, Moscow will somehow make this decision without any assistance from either Washington or London or Berlin or Paris or any other capital, right? Either from the collective West countries or from elsewhere. Russia will deal with the situation as it finds fit. We don't need no advices from nobody where we should do an economic zone, free economic zone, and where we should not, right? So what are they talking about, dear friends? You tell me. Maybe maybe I'm missing something here. But they are discussing what Russia have to do on its own territory. Is this not insane, truly? What the hell? What the hell? And they are talking about demilitarized zone, and this demilitarized zone have to be like Russia has to withdraw forces, and then the Kyiv regime will withdraw forces, and then NATO troops, European NATO troops, or maybe even Americans, who knows, man, gonna be deployed there to guarantee peace. And they really think someone gonna freaking buy this shit? I don't know, man. They are mentally ill at this point. I mean, this level of stupidity on part of Western ruling classes it clearly indicates that they are, among other things, are extremely degenerate, mentally ill creatures. Mentally ill creatures, by the way. And there is no point to talk to them. Medics might help them. I don't know. Medics probably will do something about it, at least try. But for normal people, by the way, it is absolutely pointless to have any talks with these mentally ill elements, because it's pointless, right? You are not doctor, you are not psychiatrist. So what is the point if you are talking to mentally ill? What you're gonna achieve by doing so? Literally nothing, right? Nothing positive, at least. That's how situation is, right? And well, as I already mentioned, there are going to be some meeting. This game continues, this game of deception. Is if anybody being fooled. And Witkoff, this business partner of Trump and also son-in-law of Trump, Kushner, and reports are that also CEO of BlackRock, they will have talks with the European leadership and also with the representatives of Kyiv regime, including Zelensky. This meeting going to take place today, allegedly in Berlin. Maybe talks will continue tomorrow also. Yet again, okay. I mean, they invented the game, this new operation, right, of this new deception operation. They invented this operation. They invented the rules, and they are now playing this operation playing this game among each other, and we are watching and like, what kind of reaction we have to have on this stuff, man. I don't know. I don't know, man. Most crazy thing is that they are actually pushing this narrative that Washington wants to watch something from Zelensky, and Zelensky is such a heavyweight. I mean, such an important figure that I mean, he cannot be influenced even by Washington. This is just okay. And they are conducting negotiations with Zelensky, by the way. I mean, they are trying to talk to persuade him to agree on some initiatives that Washington has. Holy moly, man! Holy moly, right? So okay, they're gonna be some meeting today, tomorrow in Berlin. Some show, by the way. Let's see what they're gonna come up, what kind of statements they're gonna make. Is if it matters. Okay, we are observing. We know what kind of game is being played out, and that's enough for now, right? We know, we are monitoring, observing. That's about it. There is no need to do anything else, by the way. Just if Washington wants to have a talk here in Moscow again, okay, let them come in. Let's have a tea, by the way, or coffee or whatever, and talk about some stuff, okay. But I said many times before, by the way, this proxy war that West is waging against Russia will end when Western ruling class will capitulate, and only then. Before that, there might be a million different talks, day in, day out, but hostilities will not stop. Even if some temporary solutions being reached or temporary agreements on ceasefire topic or something, if for whatever reason Moscow will ever agree on temporary solutions like ceasefire, that will mean this conflict will resume sometime in the future, right? So therefore, and that means proxy war will continue. So that's why I'm saying only way this proxy war can end is to force Western ruling class to capitulate, and we will do it. We will do it, by the way. It takes time. It will take time, but eventually we will force them to submission. Those so-called elites in the West, right? There are several scenarios that I see plausible. How we're gonna force them to submission? One is that they're out of their desperation on one side and also impunity on another. That's an evil mix, isn't it? On one hand, they are desperate because whatever they tried until now did not work. So that brings desperation to the Western elites. But on the other hand, they are also emboldened because every provocation they did, especially these globalist and globalist controlled elites in Europe and their allies in the US, no matter what kind of provocations they come up with against Russia, Moscow did not actually retaliate on them, right? And that gives them this feeling of impunity, right? So deception on one side, impunity on another, that's a evil mix. That's a evil mix, and that's why I'm saying it is highly likely that Western ruling class will go ahead with next phase of escalation, with potentially an attempt of decapitation strike on Russian political military leadership, with their simultaneous large-scale, unprecedented scale, long-range strikes on Russian Federation, simultaneous large-scale, unprecedented scale terrorist attacks inside Russia that will be orchestrated by the Western secret services and organized and conducted by their assets that they have here in Russia, and also massive, unprecedented scale cyber attack. And all this stuff they might do simultaneously. They might actually go ahead and do this, right? Try. And obviously, Moscow will have no option in that case to retaliate. And retaliation, my guess is, will be in a scale and with such a force that, Western ruling class after that don't really have much option but to come to their senses and capitulate. And another plausible scenario I see is that, West will continue these deception operations, right? But meanwhile, Russia will continue special military operation. And once Russian troops will reach borders of the Western Ukraine, then, well, then Western ruling class will just have no option to capitulate, because at that point they will have a much bigger issue, right? Which is going to be all those neo-Nazis and the fascists that will be concentrated in the Western Ukraine, that are destined to become a major, unprecedented scale trouble for their immediate neighbors of this so-called Ukraine, and also for Europe in general, for the Western world. They don't know what kind of monster they breed, by the way. Those Western elites still have no idea what they did, but they will find out soon. They will find out soon. And well, on this topic of these deception operations that West is engaged, by the way, they are pushing now again the ceasefire narrative, isn't it? Because that's one of the main points for them. They need break. They are desperate for it, right? Western ruling class and their proxy Kyiv regime and Kyiv regime forces and the NATO mercenaries. And Zelensky is already saying it openly, publicly. I mentioned this yesterday, for example, that he said first Trump added to the deception operation new narrative that there should be elections on the Kyiv-controlled territory. Then Zelensky said, okay, we are good with that, but we need ceasefire. We need ceasefire for their elections to be conducted. And well, we can do not just elections, but we can actually do a referendum too on the topic of territories. So, okay, let's do this, although for this we need a ceasefire. And you think what's going to happen now? Of course, Western ruling elite, Western propaganda will go wild again, will start whining about Moscow being against ceasefire and all that kind of nonsense, right? And I think Moscow will never agree on these temporary solutions, because we all understand what's going on. But yet again, if for whatever reason Moscow will say okay to either ceasefire or some temporary de-escalation or temporary solution, that will mean that it's a break. It's a break for Western collective Western ruling class. They will use this time to reorganize, rearm their proxies, right? And at some time in the future, they will launch second phase of this proxy war, active part of it, right? Military part of it, and that's why I hope we will not stop. If it's necessary, I said many times before, by the way, if it's necessary, let's do mobilization. Let's do freaking mobilization, man. Let's mobilize, I don't know, 1 million, 2 million people, right? Let's start from me, man. Let's start from me. I can do something for God's sake. During the mobilization, or these medical exams are probably not that strictly monitored, right? So maybe I will pass it. So let's start from me. Let's mobilize another 1 million, 2 million if necessary, and let's finish this special military operation on the terms that was declared from the beginning. Just let's do it. Hopefully there will be no temporary solutions agreed by Moscow, because that will mean a prolongation of this proxy war. That's it, right? But seems like Moscow understands perfectly well what's going on. Moscow sees perfectly well all these deception operations on part of West. And for example, aide of Russian President Ushakov said exactly that Zelensky's election call is a ploy, right? So Ukraine's Vladimir Zelensky is suggesting the idea of holding elections as a ploy to secure a ceasefire. Top Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov told the RT, Moscow has insisted that Kyiv would use the pause in fighting to rearm and regroup. The Kremlin's response came as Zelensky, whose presidential term expired over a year ago, has demanded their security guarantees from the Western backers in order to hold their vote. Kyiv suspended elections in 2022. We know that. Commenting on Zelensky's U-turn on the issue, Ushakov said he will see this as a chance to secure the temporary ceasefire. That's all, according to Ushakov, and he's correct. He's correct, man. I was talking about it for yesterday. I was talking about it before also, that they are desperate. They will use anything and everything to achieve this break that they want, right? This temporary ceasefire or whatever. And because Ushakov is repeating basically what I said, but with different words, hopefully Moscow will say no. You want to do elections? Just do it. Russia is engaged in this special military operation, but just recently there was local elections conducted, including in the borderline regions. Right? So if Kyiv regime and their Western masters want to play this game of elections, let them play. Just do it. You don't need ceasefire for that. Right? We did it. We did elections, and you can do it too if you want. Correct? But yet again, out of desperation, by the way, Western elites will not stop pushing these false narratives, obviously, and that's why I'm saying, man. That's why I'm saying, no matter how many deception operations West gonna come up with, no matter what they are saying, there is two scenarios that I see plausible how this proxy war will end that West is waging against Russia, and both scenarios imply capitulation of Western ruling class. They will capitulate. It's inevitable. It's absolutely inevitable. And I've said already, isn't it, that it's a tragic comedic when Washington is playing this game that they want to force Zelensky to do something, but they are failing because Zelensky is such a tough guy, man, and he's number one heavyweight master of politics on a universal scale, right? Even in the multiverse, in multiversal scale. And while this nonsense being from the Western side was pushed on Russia that Zelensky is against this and against that, we have an interesting report, by the way, that one of the leading figures in Zelensky's regime, Umerov, former defense minister and current head of negotiating team, had a meeting with their FBI director in Miami a couple of weeks ago, when his name popped up in all sorts of these tapes, right? That was published in Ukraine. His name was circulating in that corruption whole story, and he flee Ukraine. At one point, for a day or two, he went to US, and his family of Umerov, lives in US, by the way, in Florida, right? And reports are that in that day or two, he had a meeting with the FBI director, secret meeting. And now Kesh Patel is under the fire because of it, right? Questions being raised, what's going on, right? And I saw this report on one of the big Telegram channels in Russian segment. The Washington Post reports that Umerov held meetings with the FBI head, Kesh Patel, in Miami. Obviously, the discussions there was not about the conflict resolution. It was an interrogation of an American citizen, and Umerov is U.S. citizen, by the way, by the feds. And it was clearly not about the corruption of their Zelensky's regime. That's an assumption from this Telegram channel. I think what this information If true, by the way, if Washington Post's original report about meeting between Kesh Patel and Umerov is correct, then uh, my guess, my initial guess on the matter was correct. I said that Umerov most likely will cooperate with FBI. That's exactly what is happening. He's an informant now of the FBI, and of course he will be used and against Zelensky if necessary, and he become an informant because U.S. Secret Services have a dossier on everybody, including Zelensky, but on everybody, right? And and that's why I'm saying it's not even freaking laughable at this point when Washington or Western so-called elites pushing this narrative that they are trying to press Zelensky, but he's a tough guy and he's refusing to obey orders. I mean, seriously, you have a freaking dossier on everybody there, including Zelensky. You can take him out like that at any moment, and you want this world to believe that I mean, you want certain agreements with him, but he's refusing. Come on, who gonna buy this shit, man? Really? What kind of stupid someone has to be to believe that? Well, Washington wants to put some pressure on Zelensky, but failing. Crazy, crazy. But when it comes to US, by the way, also and U.S. Ukraine ties and links and the U.S.'s internal some politics. Well, interesting reports are coming in this particular case from RIA Novosti, which is referring to article in the Telegraph, British propaganda outlet, according to which Pat Hexet, head of Pentagon, removed the Driscoll, army secretary, from Ukraine talks. And seems like Hexet is jealous or something. He's afraid that Driscoll might take over his position. And earlier there was rumors that Driscoll maybe actually wants to be head of Pentagon because he considers himself to be more he considers himself to be a better candidate, let's say this way. But in any ways, seems like report is correct. Pentagon chief Pat Hexet has removed the U.S. Army Secretary Don Driscoll from involvement in the Ukrainian peace process. Driscoll was removed from the negotiations by Hexet after he believed he had overstepped his authority. The newspaper reported, citing sources. According to those sources, increasingly paranoid Hexeter pacified Driscoll, who, in the Pentagon chief's opinion, had overdone it. So yes, Hexet is, you know, Hexet was never a right guy for to lead a institution with $1 trillion budget. By the way, let's be real. It's nonsense, right? It's nonsense that I don't know who Hexet is, sergeant or whatever, soldier. When an ordinary soldier with no education, no knowledge of anything, right? Just basic military training is becoming head of Pentagon and has to run freaking institution where more than 1 million people work. This was a wrong decision to appoint him on this position from the beginning, and nothing good gonna come out of it. And whomever in Pentagon will be considered by him a challenge probably will be removed one way or another, but will be either removed from Pentagon or downgraded some ways, right? Hexet is clearly not. I mean, psychologically, he is not there. Clearly, about it. He has some issues, right? Just listen to his statements, by the way, how he acts, how he talks. It's like some freaking nobody, right? That never read a single book in his life, and then tries to act tough on the street. That's the impression that he leaves, right? It's not even laughable, man. This freaking garbage. right? And Driscoll actually did not left so much negative impression. From whatever I have read about Driscoll, even though I don't give a damn about him on his career, but he definitely did not left as bad impression as Hexet does, man. Hexet is a joke. It's freaking joke, man. Right? And also interesting reports, by the way, when it comes to US and when it comes to all this internal systemic corruption and systemic screw up of the American people. We have this interesting report from Bloomberg that cost of a Golden Dome missile defense system has increased sixfold. Sixfold, by the way, already. This number gonna go up and up and up, by the way, as time goes by, but it's already increased sixfold. Not even a year has passed since Trump is in office, and he is already allocating $1 trillion for a Pentagon. That's what he's demanding for 2026, isn't it? Trillion plus. And he's already, his team is already pushing for $1 trillion+ for military industrial complex from this so-called Golden Dome, which is crazy, right? This Golden Dome never gonna work, by the way. US is too big. It's just too freaking big, by the way. You cannot build air defense system that will protect whole territory. It's just technically not possible with the modern level of developments, right? Modern level of science and engineering. It's just not possible. This is not a freaking movie, by the way, right? In real life, you cannot do this. Even tiny Israel struggles to protect its freaking sky from basic fucking rockets that Hamas or others are firing. Basic rockets that are not even capable of maneuvering in air. And still Iron Dome is failing to intercept all of those basic rockets. And anyone actually believe that US is going to be able to create a Golden Dome or something that will protect whole territory of US, including Alaska on top there, from modern high-tech missiles, hypersonic weapons, and so on. It's crazy. It's crazy, isn't it? And I was talking about it from the beginning, isn't it? If you remember, I was saying that this Golden Dome is a fraud. It's a fraud. This is yet another way to funnel money from taxpayers to military-industrial complex, and that's exactly what is going on. The original estimate presented by the U.S. President Donald Trump was 175 billion, and it was laughable, by the way. Even 1 trillion is laughable. If you're actually gonna try to build something like a Golden Dome, it will cost, I don't know, man, 30, 40 trillion dollars, 50 trillion dollars. It would not work properly, but US will get protection like Israel does if US will spend 30 to 50 trillion dollars. But 1.1 trillion is just a peanuts for such a project. So that's why I'm saying this was a scam from the beginning, right? Trump promised his donors from military-industrial complex that they're gonna get their money back, and they're like much more on top, right? Bonuses on top, and he's acting on his promise, man. He will provide military-industrial complex with additional trillions and trillions, for sure. So yes, originally it was 175 billion, but it turned out to be greatly underestimated. According to Bloomberg, the actual cost of the Golden Dome missile defense system is standing now for 1.1 trillion, which is also, yet again, makes no sense. As time goes by, every year, every other year, this amount will probably double. And US will have to spend, I don't know, man, 30 to 50 trillion at least, I guess, right? At least to create this infrastructure. Where they're gonna find so many specialists in air defense systems, man, right? Probably air defense force will have more personnel than ground forces of the US. Because can you imagine how many specialists you need to operate with their thousands, literally thousands of freaking Patreons and Patriots and NASMs and whatever else they're gonna build, right? What they have some system. I forget the name. Who cares, man? Who cares? This was a BS from the beginning, and as time goes by, we have more and more evidences for that. So one more, my prediction, by the way, is correct, right? If someone was counting my predictions, probably I have some 70% accurate predictions, maybe more, which is a good level, by the way. Which is a good level. I believe from think tanks, high-level think tanks, demand is that their predictions have to be accurate in 75 to 85% of the time, right? And if that is the case, then these think tanks being seen as a top analytical institutions. So yeah, unfortunately, no one is counting how many predictions I made correctly. Anyways. I already spoke about this deception that Western elites are engaged, isn't it, against Russia, and they are quite creative, by the way. They are adding more and more components to this deception operation, and they will continue. They have no reverse gear, isn't it? So they will continue. But interestingly enough, ambassador of the Russian Federation in UK, Andrei Kelin, had an interview just a couple of days ago with the Channel 4 there, with the anchor of the Channel 4, and Kelin said quite interesting stuff. He said that this conflict will end when Kiev regime will capitulate, when Kiev regime will surrender. And he's of course correct, by the way. I am always talking on a bigger scale. I'm saying that Western ruling class is going to capitulate. That's how this conflict will end. And they will capitulate, and that means their proxy Kiev regime will capitulate also, right? Will surrender too. And well, I can actually give you a short clip of this interview. Kelin is on top of the game, by the way. He is a top level diplomat, obviously, and he knows what's going on. And as I said, Russian foreign ministry had enough. Russian foreign ministry had enough of these nonsensical games that West is pushing. And you see, Russian high-ranking officials, including Ambassador Kelin, they are already demonstrating, that enough is enough. Just don't give us no more bullshit, man, right? And that's why he said that, well, this conflict will end when this regime will capitulate, which is true. Let's listen to Kaylee's.
On a comprehensive plan, but Trump is clearly impatient and he wants some progress quickly. Now, there was a 28-point plan. I don't know whether you know what was in it. And then there was a new version that he talked about last week. What do you understand his plan to be?
Definitely, it should not be a deal. At the moment, we have to talk about surrender, because Kiev should think not about the deal, but definitely the situation on the ground, situation in economics of Ukraine, situation in Europe where there is no more money, spare money for Ukraine. They put Kiev in condition when they have to think how to save the state, not to be a failed state.
So you're saying it should be a surrender?
It should be definitely a certain surrender.
I mean, that is not the basis for peace talks, is it? Peace talks have to be about a deal and a compromise, not a surrender. Nobody wants to surrender.
No. The issue of talks, probably, I'm not sure about Europeans, they are talking about a deal. But a deal is a different thing. A deal when there is a certain balance of on the field, but there is no balance on the field.
You think you're winning?
There is a winning. We are in the winning situation, definitely, because the front line is moving very quickly.
Very quickly is a big claim, isn't it? It's actually moved very slowly. Over 4 years.
It is in your newspapers. But in fact, what is happening is that it is becoming quicker and quicker.
So you see, Russian diplomat was quite clear there. And well, always, by the way, always, I'm subscribed to Russian embassy's YouTube channel. If it's official, I don't even know, but there is a channel on YouTube that regularly posts interviews of Russian diplomat Andrei Kelin, Russian ambassador into UK, and it's always interesting, and because I want to know where Russian foreign ministry stands, right? But on the other hand, I feel always sorry for Andrei Kelin and all the Russian high-ranking officials that have to give an interview to this so-called journalists from Western media outlets, by the way, because those ones, man, those people that represent the journalism in the Western world or from the Western world are so freaking bad. They are so bad, man. So poorly informed, so poorly educated that I can imagine how difficult for actually intellectuals like Russian diplomats. I can imagine how difficult for them is to have a conversation with these morons, man. But it's they have to do these interviews. They just have to do these interviews. It comes with the territory, right? It's a part of a job. So there is no other way around. But I'm sharing this fragment of Kelly's interview. I watched it all, by the way. I watched her yesterday. That was full interview, and yes, Russian diplomat was on point all the time, right? All the time. Hopefully, British public will learn some more while listening to these interviews. Hopefully, they will learn some more. So yes, Moscow. No one should get the impression that Moscow can be fooled by the Western ruling class with this deception operation that they are pushing for since forever, basically at this point, right? No one is being fooled. No one is being fooled. And what else, by the way? What else have I bookmarked? RIA Novosti is reporting that EU countries have agreed to an indefinite freeze of the Russian assets. I reported earlier in my updates that European Commission, European Union basically was planning to freeze Russian assets indefinitely. And that's exactly what they did, right? And they're gonna find a way now to these assets to either issue a loan based on these assets, right? Because those assets are frozen now indefinitely, they can say, you know what, we are just giving a loan, and whenever we will have an opportunity, we will take these frozen assets, right, as a guarantee, or maybe they will issue a loan and then steal those assets anyways. Probably that's the way they're gonna go because they have no money, man. You know, EU is still rich. Obviously, EU member states are still rich, but if they are lacking some free funds. They have a significant deficit of their funds, and either they have to steal Russian assets or start printing or take loans or start printing euros like crazy. And none of these scenarios are good for EU and EU member states and their economies. We all understand this, isn't it? But for now, they are going ahead with their permanent freezing of the Russian assets. I said a million times before that those assets never going to come back to Russia. So if anybody in the among Western elites think that they can use these frozen assets as a leverage against Russia or over Russia, they are mistaken, man. I don't think anybody, literally anybody, either in the Kremlin or Russian government, economical bloc of Russian government, or in the central bank of Russia, or even generally speaking in the country, I don't think anybody actually believes that those frozen assets are gonna come back. No, man. Assets, especially assets that belong to the central bank, they're gonna steal it. They're gonna steal it, right? And they will. And Moscow definitely has ways to respond, including confiscation of Western investments into Russian economy. And those investments are 300 billion plus dollars. So we can actually, retaliate quite strongly. Nothing to be said about other possibilities, right? Also, interesting report here that EU allegedly, I saw this news on Kirill Fyodorov, Vayna Istoria Оружия channel, Telegram channel on in Russian segment, one of the biggest channels, by the way, that reports about military developments and many other things, right? And I also saw this report in newspapers, so it's accurate. EU has sent instructions for communicating with the Russian diplomats to the EU member states. This was reported by their diplomatic source on December 13. The document contains recommendations to avoid events with the participation of the Russian diplomats, and if present, not to be caught on camera together with the Russian diplomats. According to source, these measures have already had an impact on the work of the Russian diplomatic missions. Staff members are no longer being greeted at the meetings and have even been asked to leave from some events. And obviously, when you read news like that, a question automatically pops up. What are we doing here, really? Why we putting our diplomats in such situation, embarrassing situation, when they not being greeted politely, they not being addressed politely, and they even ignored completely or asked to leave? Why we are doing this? I mean Russia. Maybe actually it is time to recall our diplomatic staff, cut diplomatic ties with most of their hostile countries. Most, maybe with not all of them, but with most of them, right? We might maintain embassy in US, and this embassy can serve US and Canada simultaneously, right? We can leave our embassy in Switzerland, let's say, hostile country from anti-Russian coalition that pretends to nowadays still to be neutral, but it's not neutral, obviously. So we can leave one embassy in Switzerland, let's say, one embassy in Serbia, and those embassies can serve citizens of Western countries, hostile countries, if they online or directly, right, if they want to travel to Russia or whatever business they have, right, with their embassy. And let's recall all the others, man. Let's recall all the other embassies from UK, from France, Germany, Italy, Greece, Denmark, Netherlands, Poland. Why we waste time of our high-ranking, high-quality professionals in countries where they've been put in such a position when they can no longer work, they can no longer do their diplomatic job? Why are we doing this? Honestly, I did ask this question for quite a number of times, isn't it? Because to me personally, it really does not make no sense, man. Right? Just let's leave a couple of embassies that will serve all of Europe, citizens of all of Europe, and that's about it, man. We will save time of our professionals that can go to other countries, friendly countries, and succeed in their profession there, right? And same time, we can save hundreds of millions of dollars, because these diplomatic missions cost a lot, right? So we can save hundreds of millions of dollars, man. Why we are putting our diplomats through this experience that they are facing in Europe? I don't know. I really don't. But I think we are getting closer and closer to the point when probably Moscow will actually go ahead and start cutting diplomatic ties with these hostile states, either completely or with the downgrade, with maximum downgrade of relationships, which means basically only security will be left in diplomatic missions. and no diplomatic stuff. Everyone will come home, right? I guess we are getting closer to that point. Because truly, I mean, if you're a Russian diplomat, by the way, and you're being put through this nonsense, when you're not being greeted politely, you're being ignored, right? And asked to leave even certain events, then you would ask, isn't it, what am I doing here? What the hell, right? I cannot work in such conditions. I cannot do my job. So what is the point? Why are we wasting my time and taxpayers' money? Same time. It's a reasonable question, man. Reasonable question. And as I said, by the way, Switzerland can be one of the countries where we can, for example, leave one embassy, embassy that will serve whole of Europe, and not because Switzerland is a neutral, but because you have to put somewhere, you have to leave some embassy somewhere, right? So it could be Switzerland. And I said Switzerland is not really a neutral country because it's not. It's a part of Switzerland is a member of anti-Russian coalition. Switzerland is a hostile country towards Russia, and they are demonstrating this. Bern is demonstrating this on a regular basis. For example, this report that Switzerland has joined the 19th EU sanctions package against Russia. I mean, why Switzerland? Why? Can anybody tell me, man, why? I mean, we don't give a damn, obviously. I mean, we just don't give a damn what Switzerland does, right? But why? Switzerland enjoyed a tremendous success while playing this game of neutrality. And they decimated this foundation on which their success was built. And no one is taking this country no more as a neutral. So why they did it, man? Why Swiss people are not embarrassed by this behavior of their government? Why they are not protesting? They might think, well, nothing is happening anyway. We do our lives. No changes happened yet, right? Although this is not going to be actually correct if they will say so, because Swiss economy is already experiencing some serious difficulties. Swiss banking system is experiencing some serious difficulties, right? And not just the banking system, and this is just the beginning. This is just the beginning, right? Look forward 10, 15, 20 years, and well, things not gonna be the same. Things not gonna be the same, man. And this is done to new generations of Switzerland by current government of this country, if we even can call the country this territory anymore, right? When they were neutral, okay, but now it's just a territory controlled by globalist puppets. That's all. Anyways, Trump meanwhile once again threatened Venezuela and some other countries with their land strikes. Okay, too many threats. I mean, by this time, Trump threatened Venezuela and others with the strikes. How many times? Like 3-4 times, isn't it? No strikes had happened by now. Although U.S. is acting as a terrorist state, obviously they are killing people without due process in the Caribbean, off coast of Venezuela, and elsewhere too. And they are hijacking tankers. By the way, they are hijacking tankers while publicly saying that they might leave this oil for themselves. And they are not embarrassed to say so. Trump himself said it. So, I mean, I don't know. This is degenerates, man. Total degenerates. This is embarrassment for the US. US political class is an embarrassment for US citizens. Should be embarrassment for US citizens, man. Right? And I hope majority, maybe not today, but I hope soon, in near future, majority of American public will realize that they've been played, man. All of them being played by these so-called politicians and so-called elites. How long they're gonna sleep, man, and allow this nonsense to happen? when their future being destroyed and their own country being destroyed, reputation of their country. But yeah, U.S. is threatening Venezuela with the strikes. Some other countries too, and well, maybe they will go ahead with these attacks on Venezuela. And yet again, if Venezuelan people gonna say that they're gonna fight, if they will actually fight, then I'm quite sure they will receive significant support from their friends. And I believe they have a lot of friends, by the way, all over the world. I truly believe in that. All right, and Venezuelan people will have a significant assistance with the knowledge, with weapons, with manpower, even with everything, with everything. And US will learn hard way how big of a mistake it was to launch a war against Russia. Proxy war or whatever we're gonna call it, but it's a war that US launched against Russia, right? US and other NATO member states. So they will learn hard way how big of a mistake they made. Mistake that will cost Western world its existence. That's how big of mistake they made. But it's not a mistake, it's a crime that they committed, not just against Russia, but against their own people. Against their own people. In America, in Canada, in European countries, and elsewhere. Among countries that are either part of collective West or their proxies. And I will just remind you, by the way, that Russian president had a phone conversation with Venezuelan President Maduro day before yesterday, I believe, and he said that Russia stands with Venezuelan people. So Russian President Vladimir Putin has backed Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro and the U.S. military build-up in the Caribbean. The leaders highlighted the closer ties between Moscow and Caracas during their phone call on Thursday. According to Kremlin, Putin expressed their solidarity with the people of Venezuela and reaffirmed his support for the Maduro's government's resolve to defend the national interests and sovereignty against foreign pressure. And it is anybody's guess what Russian president meant by Russia's support for Venezuelan people. Probably he meant exactly that, support with any means necessary, potentially, right? We will find out. We will find out if U.S. will go ahead with their attack on Venezuela, which is going to be in their plan is the first step. I think they want to attack Cuba, obviously, also. So if Washington goes ahead with these wars, well, people of Venezuela, people of Cuba, people of other countries that might be attacked by US will not be alone. Friends will help. That's it, right? And well, if you think US only hijacked vessel from Venezuela, no, you're being wrong. US actually hijacked another vessel that was heading from China to Iran, right? And Wall Street Journal reported about it. Crazy, man. US is acting like, as I said, man, like a terrorist state. This is not really a surprise for anybody. And nowadays, US is acting also as a pirate state. Like they are hijacking vessels in open sea, which is crazy, right? This is not the way superpower should act or behave. But when you allow morons be in a position of power or in charge, then what you expect. So the Wall Street Journal reports that last month, several hundred miles off coast of Sri Lanka, U.S. forces seized the vessel traveling from China to Iran. Citing official sources, the Wall Street Journal says their operation was carried out by U.S. Special Forces operating under Indo-PACOM allegedly to prevent Tehran from rebuilding its arsenal after the conflict with Israel. So they hijacked a vessel that was moving from China to Iran. This is a big deal, I think, and well, Iran responded. Iran responded, by the way. They not take no BS from nobody in Tehran, and they seized the tanker carrying 6 million liters of smuggled fuel, according to local news reports, local media. And this happened day after US captured ship used to transport sanctioned oil from Venezuela and Iran. And that vessel that US hijacked from Venezuela was headed towards Cuba, right? And Iran is retaliating, and Iran is retaliating not just for that Venezuelan ship, but also, I guess, for and most definitely for that vessel that US seized earlier last month that was moving from China to Iran. Right, so open sea is becoming heaven for pirates nowadays, isn't it? And pirates, in role of pirates, we are seeing countries. We are seeing countries, man. They are hijacking vessels. Some countries are leading the charge, obviously, and others will follow. I guess if process continues, other countries will act the same. And I wonder what's going to happen to maritime shipments if this craziness is not stopping. And yet again, Iran is retaliating, by the way. Iran did not initiate this stuff, right? Iran is responding. It's always Western world. It's always collective West, Western ruling class that starts some shit. And then when some countries respond, they start whining about, now, how dare you? Oh, really? Well, should not mess around. TASS news agency is also reporting that, Trump stated that he had managed to achieve ceasefire again or peace again between Thailand and Cambodia that are shelling each other on a daily basis. Okay. Trump claimed there that he achieved success there, but in reality, this is not really true because just like an hour ago, before I start live stream, a number of sources reported that Thailand's leadership stated that they will conduct military operations as long as they find it necessary, and as long as it will Thailand's security will require it. So Bangkok basically debunked Trump's statement that he achieved some agreement with both Cambodia and Thailand. So who knows what's going on, but this conflict was provoked, I believe, by US Secret Services, US deep state, this conflict between Cambodia and Thailand. And I remind you, Cambodia is controlled by US proxies, by the way. Thailand is also influenced by US big time, but not in a way or not on a scale as Cambodia is. Cambodia is complete proxy of US. That's how it is. And US ignited this conflict, and they are struggling now to put this gene back into bottle. TASS news agency is reporting that, Democrats in US, by the way, received 95,000 new photos from their Epstein case. 95,000. And they already published some. Yesterday, I was watching some reports about it. And allegedly, US lawmakers from Democrats have went through some 25,000 of these pictures. A lot of these pictures is left, obviously, and I guess in upcoming days we're gonna some pictures gonna be leaked, and we're gonna see some powerful individuals, former or current high-ranking officials, being depicted in a criminal activity, right? To say the least. And already some pictures were published. about Trump, about Clinton, about some other elements, and more to come, I guess. And according to reports, by the way, before end of next week, or GOD, Justice Department, has to publish their Epstein files. They would not publish them all, because they will use some breaches in the law. Basically, they will use a state security topic as a reasoning to classify some of the data from Epstein files. So therefore, I don't expect much of the information to be released from those Epstein files. But nevertheless, let's see. Next week, next week, those files, some of it at least, have to be released, and public will probably launch something more. But yet again, most important and damaging information for powerful elements, current and former high-ranking officials, public figures from US, Europe, from elsewhere. Most damaging information probably will remain classified, and I doubt that information ever going to be released. And that means Israel will continue to use that information to blackmail those people and use them to achieve its goals, right? Israel will continue to do this, and Zionists will continue to do this, right? Because this whole Epstein operation was a Mossad's operation, obviously. And there are a few more news, and that's about it for news segment. Well, you know, I have said a million times that based on data, even official data from the European countries, leading economists there are in deep trouble. Germany is in a recession, and UK and France are balancing. Even though state institutions, they are manipulating with numbers, they cannot increase numbers too much, because in that case no one would take them seriously, right? So they are still manipulating, and even then, with this manipulation, their economies are hanging on a balance between zero growth and or between technical recession even and the recession. And now we have some interesting information here from UK that, for example, British economy is failing 0.1%. British economy is in recession, at least for last several months. The fall in the British economy in October, for example, amounted to 0.1% after 0.1% drop in September and no growth in August. This comes from state's National Statistics Service. 0.5% drop fail in industrial production in Britain in August. October, this is the sixth consecutive quarterly fail. 0.6% fall in October volumes of construction work. The finance ministry's plans to raise the taxes have hit households hard, which accounts for about 60% of their economy. In October, retail sales fell more sharply than expected, as consumers cut spending ahead of budget adoption, according to Bloomberg, by the way, right? And if you are living in UK and if you are not happy with the economy, and if you're gonna share your opinion publicly, please be careful, because this is not safe, right? UK is not safe country, by the way, to be in. That's what should we keep in mind in the first place. But to say something in UK, that's also dangerous. Obviously, there are topics that you can talk freely. You can talk freely about football, I guess, right? About, I don't know, basketball, about some movies. Although about movies, I'm not quite sure, because nowadays these Western movies, Hollywood movies, they are pushing so much freaking, ideology that if you criticize them, you might get in trouble, right? And this is true. This is true, by the way. UK is no longer a safe place for outspoken people. And Elon Musk shared on his Twitter X page this graph, these statistics, countries with the most arrests for online comments. This is online comments, by the way, in social media, in Twitter X, Facebook, what else is out there? Telegram, and whatever it is, man, right? There is what is the name? I don't use that platform. I don't use many platforms. I only have Telegram channel and I have a Twitter X page, right? I used to be active 10 years ago on Facebook, but no longer, by the way. Instagram, there is Instagram also, right? You might write some stuff there, share your opinion, and you might end up in jail or being arrested. So countries with the most arrests for online comments. And you know which country is number one in this list, by the way, in this chart? United Kingdom. 12,183 plus arrests. For the moment this data was taken, it was at 12,000, over 12,000 arrests, by the way, for faking posts in social media. That's what is happening in UK, Bob. That's why this country is in decline, right? When authorities are trying to suppress opinions with this kind of measure, well, you know that something is not quite right there. According to this chart, 6,200 people were arrested in Belarus. I don't know about that, man. 6,000 people in Belarus. Okay, I mean that's what Musk said, by the way, right? Germany 3,500. China 1,500. They call China tyranny and autocracy and dictatorship, right? So in China, there is 10 times less arrests for social posts. It's unbelievable, man. The Chinese population is freaking 1.5 billion. British population is how much? Like 70 million, 80 million? I don't really know exact number, but it must be around 70, 80, right? China is 1.5 billion. How come that there is 1,500 arrests in China only and 12,000 plus in United Kingdom? 3,500 plus in Germany. Turkey is next with 500 arrests. Russia is after Turkey, 400 arrests. And they call Western elites love to call Russia dictatorship, where there is no free speech, right? You write something or say something, you're going to go in jail. But, well, seems like this is the case in UK. This is the case in Germany, and I guess in many other countries all over the Western world, especially in Europe, right? In Russia, 400 people were arrested, and well, I guess those 400 people shared some misleading information or about Russian militaries or insulting information towards Russian militaries, and this is prohibited by law. You cannot insult Russian military or share misleading information. And I understand why, by the way. Entire freaking collective West is waging war against us. So we have to stay united, right? This is not the time to have some internal confrontation here. No, we do have some issues, obviously. Any society, any country does. But first, let's win this war. And then let's have a conversation. Let's go through whatever issues we are facing and find better ways to go forward. Poland is next with 300 arrests, then Thailand 258, then Brazil 200, and the list goes on and on, right? So UK is leading the chart, by the way, with 12,000 plus arrests. So therefore, if you are in UK, Yeah, we have to be careful, man. You have to be careful when you are writing something on. You might write something basics, like there is only two gender, man and woman. That's it. You might say this. I can write this all day, every day here in Russia, and people will say, "What the hell, man? Why you are writing this basic stuff?" We know, right? In UK, by the way, you're not gonna get such a reaction. You're gonna be attacked, right? And I'm not joking. BBC has published survey, by the way, a couple of years ago, and they come up in their surveys, they come up with some 200 freaking gender or something. This is real. You can check on a Google, by the way. They come up with some 200 freaking genders, and this is BBC. It's funded. It's a state-funded so-called media outlet there, isn't it? A corporation. And British people paying taxes for this shit. I mean, seriously. But anyways. So yeah, I mean, I have to be careful in UK because you might say some stuff that don't goes well with their Western with ideology that Western elites want to implement on the public, and you go in jail. You're gonna get arrested or harassed at least, right? You might be released after arrest. You might get fined, but still, for what? For what? For post in a freaking Facebook or something? It's insane, man. It's insane. And this is it, sir. This is it for a news segment. By the way, I was thinking that I'm gonna go quick through news segment, and then we will have time for community chat. I'm gonna, of course, I'm gonna be engaged in a chat. By the way, it's Saturday, so let's talk. Let me once again drop in YouTube link to my Rumble channel, and if you can, if it's not too difficult, dear friends, just click on that link and you will go to my Rumble channel. That will help to better develop Rumble channel, by the way, obviously. And if you like the news segment itself, if you find it informative, useful, interesting, then entertaining maybe, please like the video, click that like button, and leave some commentary. This will help, of course. And now, before I will join community chat, dear friends, let me just check once again. There was a donation, by the way. No, there was no comment, but there was donation early this morning from Alexander G. So thank you very much, Alexander G, for a $10 donation this morning. There is nothing on the Boosty right now, no questions, correct? So I will highlight super chat from. I will highlight super chat from Rumble, dear friends, now, and I see there is a super chat from John Banzo Beans, our moderator on Rumble. Of course, sir, I will make screenshot in a minute. But first, this super chats. Dean Motor Scatter, thank you very much for your super chat on Rumble and their $2 donation. And the comment from Diana is, thanks for all your hard work. Thank you very much. I appreciate your support. Thank you for your kind words. And dear friends, there was also super chat from Blorp. Thank you very much, Blorp, for your super chat on Rumble and $5 donation. And Blorp is commenting, water waste. Color G must be the happiest man in hell. Who is a Color G? Blur. Thank you for your comment. I don't know who is Color G. Maybe this is kind of a nickname of something. I don't know. But thank you very much for your comment, for your super chat on Rumble and the donation. And as I said, dear friends, just now, minute ago, there was a super chat from Banzo Beanser. Let me make a screenshot of that, and I will join community chat. As always, if you want to discuss certain topic, you can use, of course, these support platforms, super chat, Boosty, PayPal, or at least use capital letters in a chat, or capital Q, so that I will understand that this is comment that is directed to me. So this is a super chat from John Banzo Beans, our moderator on Rumble and YouTube. Thank you very much, John, for your super chat and the dollar donation. And a comment from John is, yay, Switzerland are super duper neutral and nice, friendly people. Well, settle all your disputes over their shared cheese, fundy, and lots of strong schnapps. Thank you very much for your comment, John. I have no doubts that people in Switzerland are super duper friendly. I hope they are not Russia haters. They're gonna be some Russia haters, obviously. They are everywhere nowadays, right? After this propaganda of the collective West, there are a lot of Russia haters here and there, but I hope there are not that many in Switzerland. And of course, it's a wonderful country, by the way. It's a wonderful country. It's no longer neutral, though. That's the issue, really. It's no longer neutral, but it's a wonderful country, famous for its beauty, natural beauty, interesting history, by the way, truly fascinating history in many ways. There is so many, even conspiracy theories in regards to Switzerland. I don't know if all the members of our community are familiar, but with these all sorts of exotic theories about Switzerland and how Switzerland become this at some point this banking paradise, and their Swiss flag and their Templars Order, and there is quite interesting stuff if you go down into that rabbit hole. But it's a wonderful country, obviously. It's a wonderful country, famous for many things. Cheese, watches, used to be famous for banks, and yeah. So thank you very much, John. And dear friends, let's Anna is at work now, dear friends, my wife, and if there was any donations or the questions through PayPal, I would not be able to see it. It's Anna's account, my wife's account, that she's allowing me to use kindly to receive donations. So, if there was any questions through PayPal or the donation during this live stream, when maybe Anna is just busy and has no time to check the PayPal. But anyways, if there is anything, I will react on it tomorrow during their big community chat and the fundraising stream. So I'm not gonna miss question anyways, right? Question or the donation, obviously, and I will highlight that in next term tomorrow, basically. And tomorrow we're gonna have a big community chat and fundraising stream, by the way. Last fundraising was a third one when we managed to reach the target. And thank you, all the friends, for that. Many thanks to all the members of community who donated last Sunday. It was great, great. Not gonna lie, by the way, it was surprising that we managed to reach $200. That usually is a task during those fundraising streams. So let's see how it will work out tomorrow. But anyways, let me join their community chat now. Let's start with this comment from Nikos. He allowed Ukraine to operate freely and now he faces consequences. Turkey has come out worse than all parties in the Black Sea, and Erdogan was begging President Putin for an energy ceasefire. And there are laughing smiles there, and I understand your irony there and sarcasm, Nikos, 100%. Turkey play too much games, and they are facing some consequences for that now. It is just it is what it is. It's true. Thank you for your comment. Periodically, I will check, of course. I will check Rumble also for super chat. So I'm scrolling, dear friends, now through chat. If I see any capital Q or questions in, oh, I see a question from Nikos also. Levan, our dear friend Svetlana says that according to officers, she knows the losses are actually 750,000 KIA. I wanted to ask you a perspective about how people in Russia are dealing with these losses. 750,000 KIA. No, man, no. I don't know what kind of sources Svetlana has, but no, I don't believe in this, man. I really don't believe in this even for a second. Losses on the Russian side there is also high in tens of thousands, actually, since the beginning of special military operation. If you combine all the losses, right, military personnel, I mean, armed forces, National Guard, or Rosguardia, Wagner PMC, also volunteer formations. Many people are forgetting that there are numerous volunteer formations also on the battlefield, right? I don't know exact numbers. I cannot know objectively exact numbers because information is classified. Defense Ministry is not sharing this information, understandably so. But I can imagine losses being high, very high, by any means, very high, right? 100,000, maybe 150,000, which is a tremendous number, obviously, tremendously high casualties, but definitely not 750 million. My understanding is, by the way, based on reports from the battlefields, and yet again, I'm no military person, but as far as I can tell, losses are at least 10 to 1, 15 to 1 between Kiev regime's forces and Russian forces. So recently, there was a report, isn't it, when Killnet hacker group hacked a notebook of General Staff of Kiev regime. They shared information that Kiev regime suffered since the beginning of a special military operation 1.7 million casualties killed and missing. That's without wounded, right? Just killed and missing 1.7 million casualties on part of Kiev regime. So, based from what I have seen on internet, or what I have read on internet in open sources, including military experts, by the way, I can assume that rate is like 10, 15, around 10, 15 casualties on part of Kiev regime when in the Russian side has 1 casualties, 10, 15 to 1, right? So if Killnet's information, this hacker group that hacked this data, if that information is correct and Kiev regime for that particular time, and that hacking happened about like months and a half, 2 months ago, approximately, isn't it? If Kiev regime's losses were 1.7 million for that time, then one can imagine that casualty number on the Russian side, KAA, that is KAA and missing, could be around 1.5, 1.7 thousand, or 150, 170,000 troops, which is yet again unimaginably big number. But yet it's a proxy war that collective West is waging against Russia, isn't it? So it's a high intensity conflict. So unfortunately, there is this catastrophic numbers for the Russian world. And if you think anybody here in Russia is happy to hear that Kiev regime suffered 1.7 million casualties, no one is happy about it. Maybe some psycho is happy, but ordinary people are not happy about it because, yet again, this is mostly our brainwashed brothers and sisters, right? On that being used against Russia by our enemies. So it's a tragedy for Russian world. It's a tragedy for Russian world, but yes, I can. Yet again, I don't know. I cannot know, but I can imagine that if casualty rate is like 10, 15 to 1, then casualty number on the Russian side could be 150,000, 170,000, which is just hard to believe, man. Hard to believe. But combined casualty numbers, I mean, PMC, Wagner, armed forces, Rosguardia, voluntary formations. We are talking about overall casualty numbers, isn't it? If 150,000, let's say, is a KIA, then winded probably is about, rate between KIA and winded is like 3 to 5, isn't it? For one KIA, it's a 3 or 5, at least winded. And because Russian military medicine is on top level, according to many records, this plays crucial role to save more, to minimize KAAs, right? KAA numbers. So I can imagine that casualty number of winded is like 5-7 times higher, probably. So overall number can be around 750,000 KAA and winded, when rate between KAA and winded is like 7 to 1, but 5 to 7 winded and 1 KAA. But 750,000 KAA, Svetlana says this based on what, man? I don't believe in that. Maybe there was some misunderstanding between you and Svetlana. I don't think she said the Russian side suffered 750,000 casualties, because I don't believe in this. That's what I think. Let's continue with some other. I will go quick, by the way. I will try to just scroll faster. After all, big community chat is tomorrow, isn't it? So tomorrow I will take more time, obviously, but I will now scroll faster. I see a question from Arcane Electric. Levan, did you know that in 2022, former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Barak personally visited Vladimir Putin in Moscow to secure his promise for Zelensky's safety from the direct attack? Was it Ehud Barak or it was Bennett? Former Israeli Prime Minister Bennett spoke about, let me check, his surname is Bennett or what? it's a Bennett, I believe. Yeah, Naftali Bennett. Yes, I know that Naftali Bennett spoke about a topic that he personally had a conversation with Putin, and Putin promised that Russia will do nothing to eliminate Zelensky. That's what I'm interpreting now. Statement of Bennett, obviously, former Israeli Prime Minister. But I believe that's what he said, Naftali Bennett. I don't know about Ehud Barak. Is he still alive, Ehud Barak, by the way? I don't even know. I don't really care much about Israel. When it comes to Israel, all I care is this entity to act adequately and not be engaged in genocides, right? Otherwise, I don't really think about Israel. I don't care about Israel. So I don't really know if Ehud Barak is dead or alive. He could be alive, probably, because he was appearing in Piers Morgan, if I remember correctly. But anyways, I don't know about Ehud Barak, but I do remember that Naftali Bennett spoke about personally receiving guarantees from Putin that Moscow will do nothing against Zelensky to take him out. And then Moscow did not really do anything against Zelensky. If Russia wanted to, Zelensky and his inner circle would not be around, obviously. But you know, so yes, I know that former Israeli Prime Minister said something like that. Can we trust either Bennett or Ehud Barak? That's a whole different question. I don't trust none of them, personally. I don't trust no Israeli official ever, by the way. I'm not going to trust no one from that represents Israeli, this criminal Nazi genocidal regime. Man. So also a question from Nikoskin. Do you feel that Russia, besides responding to Ukraine with these actions in Odessa, they also responded to Sultan Erdogan for allowing them to operate in Black Sea? You know what? Yes, I think so. And you know why? Because Erdogan and Putin had a meeting in Ashgabat, isn't it? Yesterday that was. Am I correct? It was yesterday, isn't it? There was an international forum that was happening in Ashgabat, capital of Turkmenistan, Central Asia. Russian president participated, many other leaders from all over the world, and Erdogan, Turkish president, was there too. And Putin and Erdogan had a meeting. And yesterday, some sources, some media outlets here in Russia, in Russian segment, by the way, reported that allegedly Erdogan demanded from Russia, and that was report. Maybe report was incorrect, but that's what I read. That allegedly Erdogan kind of tried to demand from Russia ceasefire. Moscow to agree on a ceasefire with this NATO proxy, with NATO basically. And late evening, we had reports about that Turkish, that cargo vessel that was struck in Odessa, right? In Odessa region, that belongs to a Turkish company. And my first reaction was, well, Moscow responded. Moscow answered to Erdogan's demand. If those reports were correct, that Erdogan tried to influence Putin to agree on a ceasefire. Moscow responded and quite clearly said no. But in any case, I think this was a message to Ankara also, for sure. Yeah. Okay, let's scroll. By the way, let's scroll. Um, Bonzo Beans is commenting on Rumble. The one I would not recommend entering UK territory. ATM. ATM is there anytime soon, or I'm not gonna go into UK ever, I guess. So I take this recommendation for sure. Although, by the way, if time was different, if times were different, I have spent there quite a number of years in UK, and I don't really have anything negative to say about my personal experience. They're wonderful people. I loved everything, man. Right? Maybe not everything. Okay, I'm exaggerating a little bit, but it was fun. I was younger, student, young and stupid, by the way. And if I regret anything, I regret that I didn't travel up and down of Ireland. I only see like few places, which is a shame. I regret that for sure, but it was good experience, man. It was fun. All the young people should have opportunity to travel around and see as much as possible, right? It will have a good impact, hopefully, on the development of the human. But yeah, nowadays, you know, I would love to take my family, by the way, to travel around numerous countries, including UK. But I understand perfectly well that this is not happening. European countries or countries from the collective West basically are out of conversation at this point. And not because they're going to do something to me personally or they care what I have to say. No, who cares, man? But I just, you know, I think it's unnecessary risk, anyways. That's what I think. So, and that's why I don't understand why people from Russia, especially nowadays, are still acquiring visas and traveling to hostile countries. Yeah, John is commenting. I bet UK cares. Of course, they don't care, man. No one cares. I mean, I think, in general terms, I think UK did care very much, or did lose very much. Lack of Russian tourists, lack of Russian investments. They're gonna feel it, and many other countries in Europe do feel lack of Russian tourists because, unlike many other tourists from other countries, well, Russian tourists are spending like there is no tomorrow, isn't it? That's how Russian tourists are known for, and flow of Russian tourists have declined big time, of course. But that's generally speaking. When it comes to me personally, who cares, man? Where if I go anywhere or not? Who am I? Just nobody. Really, some citizen journalist somewhere in Russia. That's about it. So let's continue scrolling. It's already 2 hours and 20 minutes. I see question from Nidish Kumar. Levan, do you have any take on Bulgaria? Well, there was a government change, isn't it? Government stepped down in Bulgaria. I reported about it yesterday. It was yesterday, I believe. There was demonstrations that partially were connected to corruption scandal in Bulgaria, latest corruption scandals, and partially due to people's protest or opposition to the Bulgaria joining the eurozone. But yet again, I don't think people, society in Bulgaria will have a final say, anyways, right? Bulgarian political class is as corrupt and brought by globalists as it was in Hungary. Systems are corrupter, and if by chance tomorrow there is elections and Bulgarian people will vote for actually pro-Bulgarian politician or political party, well, we're gonna see in Bulgaria very same stuff as we see in Romania. So, you know, Bulgaria is a bit bigger disappointment to me personally, right? Because throughout the history, Russia was helping Bulgaria always, right? Russia helped Bulgaria to gain independence from Ottoman Empire. And I think Bulgaria exists because of the Russia. But every time, for whatever reasons, by the way, and I'm not saying that Bulgarian people, majority of Bulgarian people are anti-Russian or something. No, I'm not saying that. But historically speaking, whenever there is a confrontation between Europe and Russia, Bulgaria is always against Russia. And that was the case during the Second World War also. And Bulgaria was an official ally of Nazi Germany. So, I mean, not just Bulgaria, there were numerous other countries, of course, that were official allies of Nazi Germany, and they fight against our people, man. So Bulgaria is a big disappointment to me personally, and I think very many people in post-Soviet area, not just in Russia, but in post-Soviet space, are a bit disappointed with Bulgaria. Poland is not really a surprise. We knew always that Polish people had Russia hate. It's a historical stuff. It's a tradition in Poland. They hate Russians. If you ask them, they wouldn't be able, really, most of them, to explain what the hell. They will just say, well, history. You know, that's majority will say. What majority will say in Poland? Well, you know, history and stuff. Easy if other countries don't have a history. What about history between France and the UK? Don't they have difficult history? Oh, they do. Right? But they are not as hatred towards each other. They don't like each other, but they are not full of hate towards each other as Polish people are towards Russians. While here in Russia, by the way, you're not going to find Polish hate that much. I mean, there is no hate, man. Russian people don't hate nobody. Actually, I will say, based on my experience, by the way, I can tell you, Russian people just don't waste time on hate. You know, it's too strong an emotion to waste it like that. So, yeah, Poland is not really surprising, but Bulgaria is surprising and upsetting to me yet again, and for many others, I guess. And the Bulgaria is down, man. They are how many years now in EU? What they gained from it? From Eastern European countries, if any republic actually managed to succeed while using opportunities that EU is offering, Poland is the one. Poland used and abused EU, by the way, big time, right? Poland. And that's about it. Rest, they didn't really gain much. They might not lose much, but they didn't really gain much either. But Poland, yeah, Poland did abuse EU tremendously, right? They've been very successful in that. So yeah, Bulgaria is a big disappointment, and I don't see any anything optimistic in regards to this republic, man. You know. Also, Nidish is commenting, Levant Trump thinks he is a Jack Sparrow from the Pirates of the Caribbean. May end up like Davy Jones. Yes, I mean, what he is doing, man. What U.S. leadership is doing. Why they are acting this way? It's crazy. It's insane. But yeah, they are they are destroying whatever remnants is there from the reputation of the U.S. as a country where law is above everything and stuff. Nowadays, Washington gives no freaking damn about law. What law? They are going around killing people left and right, not even pretending to have a justification. Not even pretending. They just want to kill those people and they are doing it. It's crazy. It's crazy. I see comments, dear friends. I read comments. I may not highlight all, but I see comments. There are some kind words there, and I'm grateful. Thank you. Uh, Come on, chat. 38 people on Rumble only. How many times I have to drop? I have to drop this link. I will drop it once again. I will drop it once again. By the way, this is a link to my Rumble that I dropped right now on in the chat, in the YouTube chat. Please subscribe to my Rumble channel, dear friends, if you can, if you have an account there, or watch this live stream on Rumble. It's the same video, isn't it? There might be time difference, like a couple of seconds, but that's a question to StreamYard. So maybe that's about it, dear friends. Maybe that's about it. John is commenting, yes, there are some Russia haters, but mostly Russia phobes, I suspect. You mean in Switzerland? Yes, I guess Russia. I mean, yeah, you can use Russia haters, Russia phobes, or Russophobes. It's phobia is like fear, isn't it? When someone has some psychological issues, some unreasonable fears. That's the phobia, right? And yeah, Russophobia is a thing in Europe. After all this hatred and hate propaganda towards Russia, no wonder some people actually become Russophobes, by the way, and they scare Russians for no reason, no rational reason. I mean, just because they've been told like million times from the TV that Russians are coming and they're gonna do this and that. Well, we are not coming nowhere, by the way. All we want is to be like left alone and just live in peace, man. That's it. It's a NATO. I mean, many people in the West still struggling to understand that it was NATO, by the way, that were pushing constantly towards the Russian borders. Russian troops did not went to Switzerland or to Germany or to UK's borders or to anywhere, right? Russian troops stay in Russia. But since the collapse of Soviet Union, every decade there was waves of expansion of the NATO, waves upon waves, and eventually they start dragging into NATO Ukraine and Georgia. And well, Southern Caucasus is being called by many as a soft belly of the Russia. And when it comes to Ukraine, by the way, take a look at the history. Whenever there was a wars, whenever European countries were attacking Russia, they were using the steppe areas of the so-called Ukraine for rapid advances, right? That's what, for example, Nazi Germany did too. And that's why it is strategically vital for security purposes, this steppe area to be secured, not to be in the hands of hostile. People in the West are forgetting that most of the wars that Russia has ever faced, most of the wars were started by the Western countries. Most of the hostilities were coming from the West, especially after Mongols, by the way. And take the last 3 to 5 centuries, let's say. Most of the wars have been started by Western monarchies, right? Nowadays, some of them become republics like France, but old days they all were monarchies, isn't it? And yes, I don't understand. It's a problem it's an issue of education, or what is the issue? Why people this easily believing in all this crap that they've been told by Western propaganda? Don't they read history, by the way? People, I mean, majority or whoever is a Russophobe there or Russia hater, don't they read history? Or do they believe anything they hear from officials? Like Kaya Kallas went the other day and said that in last 100 years, Russia attacked 19 countries, while Russia was never attacked. And I mean, that kind of statements are on a level on which you truly cannot respond seriously, because it's insult to intellect of the humanity, whole of humanity, isn't it? But I guess because Kaya Kallas is still on her position as a #1 diplomat of Europe, I guess this kind of nonsense is going down well in the West, at least, right? And Western public, significant part of it probably, takes this without any questions. And this is crazy, man. And Kaya Kallas repeated this stuff, repeated this nonsense, at least on several occasions, that Russia attacked some 19, which 19 countries? Well, what is she talking about? And Russia was not attacked, according to her, in past 100 years. Holy moly, man. She is, and you know what? Probably she is that uneducated. Probably she actually don't know any better. Probably she is that poorly educated or completely uneducated, because, I mean, come on, man. How are you going to say that kind of crap? I don't know. I don't know, man. Just take a look at the, let's say, revolution and after period, right? American troops, Czech troops, I mean, British troops, French troops, I mean, you name it. Troops from all over the Western world that we call collective West now were on Russian territory. Why? Who invited them? And they were beaten, by the way, by Red Army. This was happening during the civil war here. But I guess Kaya Kallas has no freaking knowledge about it, right? She's just out of this world, man. And she's saying, what about Second World War? What about Second World War? Come on, man. So, yeah. Martin Mother's mother says, Levan, remember what Marshal Zhukov said. We have defeated their Nazis, and Europe will never forgive us. And yes, absolutely. I do remember quite often this phrase that you might hear in different interpretations. But yes, we defeated Nazis, and Europe will never forgive us for that. European elites, let's say, and they didn't. They didn't, by the way. And take a look at the Europe nowadays. Leadership of Europe, in many ways, are descendants of those very Nazis that we defeated, or our grandfathers' generations defeated, and that is happening all over the Europe, even in UK, by the way, even in UK, which was British Empire. Britain was against Nazi Germany in war itself, but nowadays, by the way, MI6 is led by descendant of a Ukrainian Nazi and a mass murderer. That female with the Georgian surname is a descendant of a Ukrainian Nazi. And she is leading MI6. So, yeah, whole of Europe is led in many cases by the descendants of those very Nazis that generation of my grandfather defeated in a battle. Yeah, and they never forget. Europe, yeah. I don't even know what to say, man. And dear friends, let's end this live stream then on this question from Nidish Kumar. Let me just check Rumble and Boosty also. And Nidish is commenting, Levan, what was their meeting about in Turkmenistan? I don't understand Turkmenistan at all. It's a weird place to be in. No people, but a lot of infrastructure. Well, Turkmenistan it's a Central Asia, by the way, of course, a former Soviet republic. Autocracies, by the way. I would not call it a dictatorship necessarily, but it's on a border between autocracy and dictatorship, probably more leaning towards dictatorships. Turkmenistan is a gas-rich country. It has a very big reserves of natural gas, and makes most of its money on that, on export of gas. And meeting that took place yesterday, that was, isn't it, or day before yesterday? That meeting was about like international security and that kind of stuff, cooperation. It was a forum, basically. Turkmenistan is a neutral state and tries to stay away from everything, literally, as much as they possibly can, right? And yes, very, very strange regime, by the way. I'm really disappointed in Turkmenistan, because I didn't. All the other republics, even though they are experiencing some issues like Uzbekistan in Central Asia, like Uzbekistan, Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Kazakhstan, they are developing. They are developing systems, right? And none of them transformed into these quasi dictatorships, right? None of them are actually like democratic countries. None of them have a decent enough political systems. Kazakhstan probably is more developed in this regard, although it also has some issues. And I'm talking about institutional development, right? All of them are autocracies, and I would not say there is anything wrong with autocracy, by the way. If as long as it might, and autocracy is a strong presidential republic, in my understanding. That's what autocracy is. That's what being called autocracy by the West, by Western elites. And I have no issue with a strong presidential republic. When president is in charge of many things, right? As long as their institutions are being developed. So there is a process in all of these republics in Central Asia, process that moves them forward step by step, little by little. But Turkmenistan is stuck in the time, man. It's what is wrong with the people there, man? I don't know how they put up with this nonsense when their president or whoever they call it Bashi or whatever, Turkmen Bashi or something like that. How they put up with this nonsense, man? Right? I don't know. It's a former Soviet republic, by the way. Educational level in Turkmenistan supposed to be high level, as it was all over the Soviet Union. Level of development supposed to be on a high level, and after collapse of Soviet Union, how this society turned into this medieval something when there is a, I don't know, Bashi or Mashi or whatever Sultan there. I don't know. It's crazy. It's crazy what happened to Turkmenistan, man. And every leader they have was a little crazy, I think. Maybe not even little crazy. So I don't understand Turkmenistan either, Nidish. That's what I can say. I'm a bit disappointed that people of Turkmenistan is putting up with this stuff, man. But maybe they are happy. Yet again, it's none of my business, after all, isn't it? It's none of my business, but yet again, it's weird. To me, it's weird when there is some sultanic looking figure, right, and does some crazy stuff, and people just obeying. It's not even a hint on people having say in anything there, which is bad, man. You can call Russia autocracy or dictatorship all day long, but Russian government cares what people have to say, by the way, and there is elections all the time, right? And if someone is doing job too poorly, probably that's someone going to be replaced. So there is yes, Russia is a strong presidential republic. President has enormous powers, right? But there is clearly elements of democracy here, and you cannot ignore this, right? Clearly. And I'm okay with this system. This system works for us. People have a say. Fine by me. In Turkmenistan, it's very different, and I don't understand how they are okay with that system that they have. They are. So it's their country, by the way. As long as they are okay, and who am I to say anything whatsoever, isn't it? But yes, I have to agree with you, Nidisha. I don't understand Turkmenistan either. Ashgabat is must be a weird place. There is a marble, almost entire central part in white marble, and very few people are living there. I have seen videos, by the way, on internet, and yeah, it's weird. And you go out of Ashgabat, and it's a very different world. So yeah, it's a strange stuff. And this is it. This is it for now. Dear friends, please, no, let's be polite. What? I'm gonna block this. I very rarely block someone, but this Chris what? Chris something. You're gonna get blocked because you know, I don't take no bullshit, man, from nobody. So yeah. Bye. Share your freaking opinions somewhere else. And we should always stay away from families of each other. I can take anything if you can say, if you have something to say about me, I don't care, man. I'll take criticism as long as we are talking in a normal with normal language. I am okay with that, but I'm not taking no freaking nonsense from nobody. Okay, dear friends, we had a good conversation, isn't it? Almost 3 hours. This live stream. So thank you all for your time, for your attention. Many thanks to members of community for super chat and donations. Have a wonderful day, and hopefully I'll see you tomorrow during the big community chat. Bye for now. Thank you.